By adding in experiments to our strategy when running Google Ads, we could potentially unlock performance we've not had before. So in today's video, what I want to talk about is not only the implementation of how we can use experiments, but also how we can give us a massive amount of certainty to know that if we make changes once the experiment has run, we know that our performance of our campaign is going to improve, which is massive. If we're an agency and we're reporting back to a client, we can say after 30 days that if we make these changes, the improvement in performance is going to happen. And we're going to say it with certainty because we're getting data, because we've had an experiment running. So what is an experiment? So an experiment is just another form of split testing. And we're doing this with different variables. So we can split test, or we can add an experiment as a split test for bidding strategies. If we want to go for max clicks, max conversions, we can test that on max conversions to a max conversion TCPA strategy. We can do it for budget, we can do it for landing pages, just a lot of variables. Depending on what your strategy is, you can test it within Google. So we should be testing our headlines, descriptions, having split testing running, but also by adding in an experiment, which takes 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to set one up shortly. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to set up. The potential is massive. So whatever we're doing within Google or in life, I think we should be looking, what's the downside by not running an experiment? We're going to stay performance-wise where we are, but what's the upside? Is it greater than the downside? And by adding an experiment into our arsenal of tools that we can use, then we can potentially unlock greater performance just by adding in a test for 30, 60 days. So the only caveat to this, the experiment can only run up to 84 days within Google Ads. So why don't advertisers use this strategy? Well, I think maybe it's potentially just not knowing what experiments and how powerful they are. Once we understand what they can do, there's no reason why we shouldn't be implementing these on a regular basis. I just don't see enough advertisers using the experiment feature, which takes 5 to 10 minutes to set up and can run for 30, 60, up to 84 days. And the results can be massive on the upside, whereas the downside, there is no downside really. So let's jump into a screen share. Let's run through how to create an experiment and how you can implement to increase the performance of your campaign. So let's jump into this screen share. So we can see we've got a base campaign that's doing okay. So on the left-hand side, we just need to click on experiment. And then from here, we've got all experiments, custom, add variation, performance max experiments. So we've got a number of different options that we can use to test. So what I want to do, click on the custom experiment. And then from here, we can just ignore these two. These were two I was messing about with earlier. So click a new experiment. And then from here, we come to custom experiment. I like to use the custom feature, search campaign, click continue. And then we need to name the experiment. So you could just, I'll just do max, if I can, max, and then I'll do TCPA. And then from here, what we need to do is choose the base campaign that we're going to test. I'll choose the AS campaign, the one we just looked at. And then what we need to do is save and continue. So this will now fire up the experiment. So this is the experiment campaign. So we have the original campaign, and this is the experiment campaign. This is the campaign that we're going to make the changes to. So we can change different variables based on what we want to test. So if I click into the cog feature, and then from here, this is on a max conversion strategy. So if I was thinking, should I go to a max conversion TCPA strategy? Then from here, I could make those changes. So from here, the bidding strategy, I could change the bidding strategy, max conversion, TCPA, 25, and then I could save that. And then that would then run as a split test. Whatever you want to change, this is where you could do it, depending on what you're trying to achieve within the split test. And then once the change has been done at the campaign level for the experiment campaign, you know it's the experiment campaign because there's no data here, whereas the other, we had data. So there's no campaign, there's no data at this campaign level. And then what you need to do is set up, make changes, schedule. So click this schedule below, and it will run through some other features now, a little bit more detail. So here is the experiment goals. What do you want as the outcome for this experiment? So if we click on the metric here, we've got a number of different metrics. So if we click on conversions, I'm saying to Google, that I want to test max conversions and max conversion TCPA for this experiment, and you can choose what you want to achieve within the experiment. I want more conversions. So I want to see an increase in conversions based on the strategy. And then from here, cost per conversion, you could say I want the cost per conversion or conversion value, depending if you're a lead generation or e-commerce. Cost per conversion, I want that to decrease. So two factors: conversions, I want more conversions like most people, and I want it to be at a cheaper rate. So I want to pay less for that conversion. And then here is where you can split the budget. So if you had a campaign that was doing very, very well and you only wanted to run 20% of the budget towards the experiment, what you would do here was just change this down. And you can see as I'm moving this down, say 20%. So if it will stick, let's go here. It's a little bit sticky. We'll do, my mouse is a little bit funny. So here, the trial campaign will get 20% of the budget. The main campaign, which is the winning campaign that we have, will get 80% of the budget. And that's a safe way if you wanted to run an experiment within Google Ads. I do this, or 50-50 is the other way that we could do this. We're saying to Google, we want the budget to be split 50-50, an even split, and then we want to be run this for a period of time. Advanced options. I normally leave this on cookie based. You can do cookie based or search based. If you want to actually know a little bit more data, then click on this question mark and it will tell you a little bit more of the data that we get. Now remember, with a experiment, you can't run it on the same day. So the date that you have needs to be tomorrow's date. And then once you get this running, it will then start working the following day. So click on the next day to get this running. And then from here, you can only run this for up to 84 days is the maximum period of time that you could run an experiment for. I would have the experiment running for a minimum of 30 days. Give it time to get some data. Google is slow to get going. The first few days, you won't get a lot of data. Give it some time. Give it at least 30 days to get up and running. The longer period of time, the better. And remember, if you're getting the data coming through, you can always implement the experiment as a full-time to take over the actual main campaign. So remember, give it enough time to collect data. So we've got this, we'll do this for 30 days. Now, enable sync. Enable sync is if you have the main campaign, the base campaign, and you make any changes, those changes will reflect in the experiment campaign as well. So if you want to make changes to sync with the second campaign, you can do this. If you want to make changes differently to the campaigns, then you would just tank this off and the experiment won't sync from the base to the trial campaign. So depending on what your strategy is, again, sometimes I'll turn this off. Most of the time I'll leave it on because I want the experiment to be, say, for the strategy that we did, which was a bidding strategy. But if you wanted to make change to the actual headlines and descriptions, then you would turn this off because you wouldn't want the change to follow through if you wanted to have some more clarity on that. So again, in the EU, political ads or not, this is something that Google's just brought in. And again, what we would do from here would we would create the experiment. And then once the experiment has been created, remember, it won't run today. So this is the experiment. It starts from tomorrow and it will run to November the 7th. And how do we know this is experiment? Because it will show as experiment. So when you have this up and running, when this runs tomorrow, you'll see like an hourglass figure, and that's the experiment. And then if you come here, click on experiments, it will show you the data. The data will start to collate within the Google Ads. So give it time to actually collect data. Give it at least 30 days. Give it some time. And remember that once you're getting the data, you can, if you're not happy with the results after say 20 days, you can turn off the experiment and just have the budget running to the main campaign. So I hope this makes sense. What I'm looking to do moving forward is if you wanted me to audit your account, I'd love to jump in. I love auditing accounts. I have the privilege of doing this a number of times a week and just going through some different strategies. Or if you're looking for additional coaching, I'm looking to do that potentially next month, where we jump on calls and we go through all the kind of nitty gritty, the day-to-day running of Google Ads. And I can show you how to kind of set things up and just run through, have an explanation or an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing within Google Ads. And obviously click and like the video that we've created today. And obviously if you want anything specific spoken about within the Google Ads, then we can create videos for that. So I hope you like the video. and we'll speak to you guys soon.